not date because I was like, nah, if I end up with you, I'm going to be the one who does everything at home. And this is not the lifestyle. Like, that would be okay if I was going to be at home and be a homemaker. And that's what I want to do with my life. But it is not what I want to do with my life. I'll break it down a little bit more. Because think about it. I have no problem if that's your cultural values, right? Like, you want your wife or your partner to be the homemaker, take care of the house, do everything. Then she shouldn't work a 9 to 5. Like, then you should work the 9 to 5 or whatever many hours.
And bring the money home.
To bring the money home, or like she has like a part-time job or something. But what I really struggle with is accepting that we're both going out, okay? We're both gonna go have like 12-hour days or 8-hour days or 10-hour days. Then I'm gonna come and you're gonna rest and I'm gonna work.
And I'm still gonna have like a whole new shift at home.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's a whole shift waiting for me. Because for me, it's not even about gender roles at that point. It's like, do you care about me? Like, do you care about my health? Do you care about me not being burnt out and being tired, right? So it's the way I look at it. It's like, if we're both going and we're both going hard and we're both working hard, then let's find a different way to operate within the home where we support each other.
Hello everybody, welcome to episode 22 of the Dairy Mom podcast. My name is Diana Adair. I am the founder and CEO of the Dairy Mom. We inspire, educate and empower mothers who may be struggling to reclaim their dreams or who may have temporarily set aside their ambitions due to the demands of motherhood. On the Dairy Mom podcast, we bring you powerful stories from audacious mothers around the world who defy societal expectations and harness their strength to juggle both roles of motherhood and the pursuit of their personal and professional ambitions successfully. Before we begin today's conversation, I want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you to all of our new subscribers, and thank you to all who have been with us from the beginning. I appreciate you all very much, and if you are yet to subscribe to our channel, please do so by hitting the subscribe button. This helps our channel to grow. Today's episode is the second part of our two-part series on Beyond Borders, A Mother's Tale. We are honored to continue our conversation on navigating identity, cross-cultural backgrounds, and motherhood with our special guest, Michaella Mutoni-Dovlo. Michaella Mutoni-Dovlo is a strategist, storyteller, and advocate for cross-cultural voices. With a BCom from McGill and an MBA from NYU Stern, she has spent over a decade working with global organizations like the Clinton Foundation and SAP, spanning sectors from NGOs to tech. Today, she leads a solution consulting team at a tech company, helping governments improve operations by digitalizing their workflows. Having lived in 7 countries across Africa, Europe, and North America, and fluent in English, French, and Kinyarwanda, Michaella brings a unique global perspective to her work. Michaella is the author of The Wondrous Journeys of Isaro and Juru, a children's book series that explores diverse cultures through the adventures of 2 siblings. Now living in Canada and raising her own cross-cultural child, she's dedicated to celebrating and sharing the richness of a cross-cultural world. If you are ready and excited for today's conversation, grab your pens and notebooks and join me as I speak to our special guest.
So the way I looked at it was, how can I put myself in a position where in my career, whenever I go on mat leave, I feel comfortable going on mat leave, right? Like wherever I am. So that's why I tried different roles in the company and moved to a point where I was like, okay, I'm good now to go on mat leave. Like I'm in a good space. So that's sort of what I was focused on like obviously getting married to and kind of learning how to live with someone and just making sure I felt my career was at a good spot. Now, when I became a mom, man, I didn't realize how hard it would be. I love my son. I love being a mom. Like, I'm glad I'm a mom. Definitely now I'm on the camp of, if you're hesitating about whether you want a kid or you don't want a kid, you don't want a kid. So motherhood is just you have to be 10 toes in. You have to be 120% committed, 200% committed. It's not yeah, maybe I want to become a mom, maybe I don't want to become a mom, because once they're here. Like, you're stuck with them for life.
So someone said there's no refund policy.
Exactly. There is no refund policy. There is no going back, right? So, no, it's a lot of fun. I love being a mom. I love having a son, but it's hard. It's a lot more work than I thought it would be, but not a lot more work, but it's just because it's constantly on. And once again, going back to what we're saying about living here, like, my parents don't live here, my husband's parents don't live here, my siblings don't live here. So it's just us and our little community of friends. But our little community of friends, they also have their own kids, and they also have their own lives working. And so it's almost like going back to it takes a village, like trying to rebuild that village. It's just hard. I'm tired.
I'm tired. Oh my god! Don't get tired yet. Just hang in there. Hang in there.
People have 4 kids here. They have more than one. Like, they have more than one. I'm like, am I sure I want a second one eventually?
Let me sure. I think I share the same sentiments too. I laughed so hard because you said men. Because you always know you want to be a mom, but I always say nobody really tells you like what it really is to become a mother, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the inspirations that I had for starting the Dairy Mom podcast, because I figured, like, wait a minute, like, why is nobody telling us like everything that you have to go through as a mother, and especially in a foreign land where like we find ourselves, especially those of us who have moved across countries and we are in different countries. There's no like extended family support. There's no it takes a village. Like, you don't find that, and it's typically, like you said, just you and your husband and your little boy, and maybe the community of friends that you have. But the reality is, people are busy. Like, people are living their lives. Like, you can't go and call a friend, oh, can I come and leave my kid with you for like a day or two, or maybe like a few hours. Like, it doesn't happen here. So that adds to the challenge that we face raising kids. Like, here, it's that piece is really hard, and I think that also threatens our like ambitions, right? So let me come to you. You have managed to like still go through the difficulties of motherhood, like as you described it, like it's so hard. But you have a 2-year-old, right? And he's like at that point where you're like terrible too. They're all over the place.
So hard, right?
It's so hard, but you still manage to juggle like multiple roles. Like you are I see you speaking at events, you are like writing books. How do you find that balance between all of these roles? Like, tell us about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So there's a woman I really like, Indra Nui. I don't know if you know her. She was the Pepsi CEO, the CEO of Pepsi.
Okay.
And she talks about how there is no such thing as balance.
Okay.
And she calls it juggling.
Exactly, juggling.
You're just juggling all these balls, and you're just hoping that one of them doesn't fall off, right? But for me, at the end of the day, it comes back to truly knowing what you want to do. Like having that clarity in your mind of like, why am I here? What am I here for? And some of it might be like introspection, talking to people, talking to friends, and then knowing your why in a way, right? And once you know your why, you can kind of make things work around it. Now, I will say I work a lot. Like, I work all the time. I work more than the average person works. But for me, it's because it's for a reason, like it's for a purpose. So I have my 9 to 5, let's say, and then you get into mommy mode, like when the toddler is home from school. and then he goes to bed, and then I have like another 9 to midnight shift, right? That's where the books get written. That's where the promotion of the books get written, and all of the other things that I'm working on. But it's also not sustainable. Like, I realized that. So it's kind of like, how do you set up systems and a foundation, I guess, to make that more sustainable? Like, I'm lucky to have a husband who's also very involved and can do everything that I do, and loves spending time with his son. So it's just trying to juggle it, because there's sometimes where I'm like, yeah, we really are overdue for a date night. Like, we should go to we should have a date night soon, like, so trying to not drop a ball, and then when you drop one of the balls, you apologize and you move on.
Yeah. So it's I just picked like 2 or 3 things from what you said. Knowing your why.
Yes.
And intentionality, being intentional about things. Like you telling your husband, we need to have the date night, because if you don't take care, you will just be doing this parenting thing, like going, and then like you're kind of like trying to flip between work and parenting and this and that, and then you forget that like you have a family to like, let's say to, that's even family, like you and your partner, that's what I'm trying to say, your relationship to build, right?
Yeah.
Because you also don't want to just the moment the kids start coming in, you don't want to find yourself just giving all the attention to the kids and not building that relationship that you had with your husband before the kids start coming in. So it's about being intentional about that piece and throwing it in when it has to be thrown in. Wow. And then you also mentioned when you put the kid to bed, that's the time when you go into author mode. Right? Tell us about your books. Like, what inspired you to become an author?
Yeah, so it goes back to our earlier conversation on like being cross-cultural, having multiple identities, right? Because as I was going through my own, let's call it like identity discovery, and made my own peace with my cross-culturalness, like the way I look at it is like, it's 100% okay for me to be Canadian and Rwandan. Like, I don't have to choose. I can be both, right? And now I'm like, okay, I'm raising this kid here, right? So he's not even growing up in Rwanda like me. He's not growing up in Ghana. Like, his first exposure will be Canada and Canadian culture and Canadian history, whatever way it's presented at school, right? So how do I, and we talked about it a little bit, like, there is the common culture around you, but then how do you instill a little bit of that heritage or traditions that you want to have, right? And it's really hard to do when you don't have a big community around you, right? And so I started thinking about it, and then I realized that you learn a lot about Ghanaian culture because you lived in Ghana and grew up there. Like, you were in the environment, right? Like, the few years I did live in Rwanda is where I learned a lot about Rwandan culture, because it's almost like by osmosis. Like, you're there. You just take it in.
You
like,
soak it everything in.
All day long, right? And so I'm like, once again, going back to being intentional, I was like, we are going to have to be very intentional about presenting and explaining certain aspects of our cultures. Like, this is what people in Rwanda do. Like, this is what's valued. This is how you do certain things, right? And so as I was thinking about how do you transmit that, I thought about books as a good tool to facilitate that conversation.
Okay.
Right? Because it's a conversation that's going to happen multiple times, but it's also like a good way to explain things through a story, and then you can build upon it however way you want, and you can kind of grow with your children as they grow, and as you can explain more things to them. Like, the way you read a story to a 2-year-old is not the way you read a story to a 5-year-old, right? Like, a 5-year-old can process more information, whereas the 2-year-old is probably looking at the pictures, right? And so that was one thing so that's kind of how I settled on that. Like, I never really thought about I'm going to be an author. Like, it was never on my list of things I want to achieve in life, but it just, when I kind of run through the ideas of like, okay, what is the best way I can do this, and that will also help other people, like, yeah, the books became the conclusion.
So going back again to how you described motherhood being a challenge, you through that challenge you still found something beautiful out of it, like becoming an author for of children's books, like with your own experience raising a cross-cultural kid, because you have a different cultural background, your husband has a different cultural background, and then you're together, and then now this kid is in a mix of this kid is in a mix of all of that, and you're kind of finding how do you speak to this boy to understand like the differences in cultures, how do you raise that kid to appreciate all the cultures and everything, and then you ended up writing the book, and I took a glance at it, and I'm like, oh, this is so beautiful, like it's so inspiring, and it's engaging, and I feel like I think like everybody who's like in that space, for having experienced like the different cultural backgrounds and everything, raising kids like in a foreign land, should really like get a copy of the book, and I'm going to put the link in the description. It's based on it's everywhere. The Wondrous journey of help me, Isaro and Juru, Isaro and and I did a little bit of research on the meaning of the names. Isaro means pearls, and Juru means like walking towards the sky or reaching towards the sky, something like it. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I want to come to this might be a little bit personal, but not too personal if you're comfortable with that. We find ourselves in a space where, like, I am coming towards you marrying someone who is not Rwandan, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like Rwanda is East Africa, and Ghana is West Africa, and you find yourselves here. Sometimes when we travel, in trying to find a partner, it can be challenging because you don't always find a partner from your country. Like the dating pool is so limited.
That's true.
It's so narrow, like, and sometimes you are wondering, okay, do I keep my mind fixed on I have to marry somebody from my country, or do I open up my options, and embrace that? And I think that the one of the challenges that comes with deciding to open up your options to meeting somebody, or even like taking it to the next step of marriage from somebody from a different cultural background is, okay, what are we going to teach the kids?
Exactly. Yeah.
So how did you process your own information, like before you got married? Like, how did you land on that? How did you settle on that decision that, okay, I'm going to go towards this approach? And like now you are here and the kid is here, and then like I find it very intriguing that through that challenge you have been able to birth a new thing, and like you're an author. So how did you, because I want you to speak to somebody out there who's probably in that situation. A lot of us find ourselves in that situation, to be honest. How did you navigate that thought process and make it look like, okay, this is okay, I'm still going to approach it this way, tell us about 100%. That.
I think at the end of the day, it's about the values that you have, right? And the values that you prioritize in your life outside of national identity, let's say. Okay. I did try to date random men, and it didn't work out because we were not aligned on values, on what we thought was more important or most important in life. And once again, I think, like, let's say, like a Rwandan person who grew up and lived their whole life in Rwanda versus me who traveled and lived all over the place, we might not see eye to eye, right? Whereas my husband, he's Ghanaian, but he's a bit like me. He grew up in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Oman, studied in the UK, and lived in Canada, right? So we meet each other in our cultural confusion. So that makes more sense.
Makes
right?
more sense that way.
I think if they had been probably a Ghanaian person who was born and raised in Ghana, lived their whole
Typically,
lives,
like in Ghana.
and had just moved to Canada, we might not necessarily have seen eye to eye, right? Because so it goes back to really going back to what do you value, what do you prioritize in what you want in a guy, and then being open to whatever that might look like. Like I didn't go out looking for a Ghanaian husband, like I was like, this is the type of person I want to meet. God help me, right?
Right.
And actually, funny story, my husband was set up actually through a friend, and initially I said no.
Set up like a betweener.
Yeah, my friend was like, I think you guys would go great together. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to date. He's part of our friendship group. I don't want to date him because if it doesn't work out, then
The whole friendship group.
yeah, it's gonna be awkward. And then she was like, no, you guys are adults. Try it. And then 7 months later, I finally said yes, and then here we are. So being open to doing something you might not necessarily do before. But I would also say, then having that discussion, right, of like, are the cultures going to be equal, like I guess in your home, right? And how are you going to go about teaching them, which is kind of how this book came about.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to leverage your family? Like I remember when my in-laws were here, I asked my mother-in-law, I was like, do you want to show me some Ewe songs? Because I don't know anything about Ewe. It's like barely, right? I don't know what an Ewe, I don't know like what's a cool song in Ewe or like a cool group or, like I'm able to play for my son like running songs and I can teach him the dance.
Because that's what you know, but you don't know.
I know it,
exactly.
Right? So if I want to teach him about my husband's culture, I have to be a little bit more intentional about that. So as long as you're both aligned, right? And maybe like you're a person that cares really much about culture and the other person doesn't care as much, right? So is that a deal breaker? Like, would you care if you teach them Ghanaian culture and they don't learn the other person's culture? Would you take that on, right? So I think it goes back to clarifying what you want. Would you travel back? Would they not travel back? Does the person have a passport, right? Like, that's important. So, figuring out what it is that you value most and then prioritizing that.
Does the person have a passport? Does the person have a passport? That's a big one.
No, it's true, because think about it though, right? Because if the person's if the person's idea of a vacation is, I'm going to go to a chalet, like to a cottage, right? And they've never traveled, they've never left, right? Like if you meet them, you're presenting, you guys are looking at the world differently. Like you're looking at the world like, world, I'm going to go XYZ, right? But their world is a little bit smaller, right? Like they're going to explore different parts of Canada, and it's not necessarily wrong. But are they open to coming to Ghana with you? Are they open to traveling the world with you? Are you open to going to the cottage with them? Right? Are you going to go learn how to ski? Like those things are more important in your day to day, right? Are they going to cook with you, or do they expect you to be the housewife who's going to do everything and they're going to sit and watch TV? Like that doesn't work so well here.
I think what you're saying like, is such a big deal. Like it's so true.
There are guys that did not date because I was like, nah, if I end up with you, I'm gonna be the one who does everything at home, and this is not the lifestyle. Like that would be okay if I was gonna be at home and be a homemaker, and that's what I want to do with my life. But it is not what I want to do with my life.
And it's like from their perspective, that's what it is. Like because typically in Africa, it's like, okay, this is the setting, but things are changing now. Though it's not as it used to be, but we still have a lot of like our men who expect that, okay, whilst we are married, like you, the woman, has to do everything in the home, like be the typical homemaker, and then they sit and watch TV. So, but here, like in North America, or like when in the Western world, it's different. And so if you're looking to find somebody from a different cultural background, these are like important conversations to have, and then what really works between the two of you before you decide whether you want to move forward or not. Like I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, no, No, because think about it. I know. Sorry, I'll break it down a little bit more. Because think about it. I have no problem if that's your cultural values, right? Like you want your wife or your partner to be the homemaker, take care of the house, do everything. Then she shouldn't work a 9 to 5. Like then you should work the 9 to 5 or whatever many hours you
And bring
need
the money home.
to bring the money home, or like she has like a part-time job or something. But what I really struggle with is accepting that we're both going out, okay, we're both gonna go have like 12-hour days or 8-hour days or 10-hour days. Then I'm gonna come and you're gonna rest and I'm gonna work.
And I'm still gonna have like a whole new shift at home.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a whole shift waiting for me. Because for me, it's not even about gender roles at that point. It's like, do you care about me? Like, do you care about my health? Do you care about me not being burnt out and being tired, right? So it's the way I look at it. It's like if we're both going and we're both going hard and we're both working hard, then let's find a different way to operate within the home where we support each other. You know, it's like, okay, you don't like cooking, maybe I'll cook and you mop, right? Or you do something else. If we're supposed to be partners in this, then like, let's be partners in this. Like, do you even love me? Like,
because if you love me, you wouldn't want to see me like, you know, suffer, you know, like all that. Then yeah. This is really, really beautiful, because I want us to like wrap up our conversation, because I mean these are things that we don't really like talk about, you know, in our community, because like, okay, again, back to what we were saying in the beginning, it's like, shh, don't talk too much, don't say too much, you know, just keep quiet. So these are things that when we start talking about it in the open, it's like we are ruffling feathers. You know, it's like, and I get it and I see it all the time, but somebody has to say something.
Yes, 100%. We have to exchange notes, right? And show that there is a different way of living, and show that there is, you don't have to suffer. Like, for me, that's the conclusion. Like, and it's like, okay, fine, if you let's say if you can't really do everything, then maybe are there alternative methods, right? Like, can you outsource some of it if you can afford it? Like, get a cleaner to come every once in a while. Maybe order like food from a caterer or something and freeze it. You know, like find different ways of operating here that make it easier
for everybody,
rather than just taking everything upon yourself, because that's how we're gonna get like high blood pressure and we're still young, you know.
Michaella. It's a high blood pressure.
And we're still young. Like, we got a long life to live. Like,
I know. But that boils down to affordability, you know, and that's why we are working. So I think it still comes down to like putting your heads together and working as a team, as opposed to maybe one person feeling like, okay, you should do this after having a long day and still come home and do everything, you know, on your own. So it's about understanding your partner and being on the same page. This is beautiful, Michaella. This is beautiful. I want us to wrap up our conversation. What are your final words for women out there? Because especially on identity and motherhood, you have found something beautiful out of motherhood, and this is something you are passionate about and all that. So if somebody is wanting to become a mother and they're contemplating, what's your word for them? If somebody is a mother and they are still kind of struggling to find that we don't want to say balance, like to be trying to juggle juggle the roles, like what should they do, you know, like what are your words of encouragement for people out there?
So I would say the first one is like get to know yourself truly, like kind of go back inside, and some of it could be, we didn't talk about it, but like go to therapy. Like I have a therapist that I see quite often, just to help you process some of those life experiences, help you process some of what you might be feeling, and help you kind of get out the noise, right? Like get out the noise and really bring it back down to like, what does Michaella want? What does Diana want? And once you really know what you want or why you want what you want, then it becomes easier to set out a path for yourself, especially, and I would say both before you become a mom and after you become a mom. Like, before you become a mom, because it helps you process any emotions from like your childhood or how you grew up or your relationship, so that you are ready to become a mom, because it is taxing emotionally, right? Your kid is there demanding things and you're just like, like I'm tired.
24/7. You catch no break.
Yeah, and you have to have the emotional stability to handle that, right? And then after you become a mom, because I think you don't want your whole identity to be wrapped up in just being
motherhood,
a mom, right? Yeah. Like, you have other dreams you want to achieve, you have other things you wanted to do before or after, and so when you take the time to say like, okay, yes, I'm a mom, but I also want to do these other things, and you have that clarity, then everything else becomes easier. So that would be my first thing, like, get clarity on what you want to do, on who you are, on what you want. Get help to get there, whether it's through family, friends, whether it's through therapists, or other professional help. And then the second thing would be, once you have that clarity, then you have to set up systems in place, right, to help you. Because one thing here is that it's like a wheel, right? Like, we're always running.
Yeah, we're always running. Like, it feels like being on a treadmill. Like, you're always like going.
Yeah, we are on a treadmill. I was telling a friend of mine, like, I'm just tired. I'm ready for Christmas, right? It's like, when does it stop? Like, when does the treadmill stop, right? So you have to find ways to cheat yourself or cheat your life so that you can get like this little break in place, right? And whether it's you do ask your friends to babysit, right, every once in a while, and put it in their calendar, like 2 weeks in advance or 3 weeks in advance, because if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't happen, right? Like, I have friends that keep telling, yeah, let's hang out, but if I don't see it in the calendar, it's not gonna happen. So, like, put it in the calendar, like, make that a promise for yourself, right? If it's like, I want to go to the gym, like, then find somewhere, lunch period, or
put it there.
8 a.m. right before you start work or something. Like, set systems in place, ask for help where you can, outsource some of it where you can, and then the last one will be, give yourself some grace, because we're all trying hard, and sometimes we're frustrated and things are not going as they should, but we're trying.
You're all trying. You're all trying to make it work.
Yeah.
We are all trying. And when you mentioned that, oh, like, you have friends who will babysit, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, you really have good friends. You really have good friends.
We're not good at asking them for help. We're not, because we're just so used to it being asked.
Yeah.
But most people mean well. You just have to know how to ask them, and
they'll be able to,
and put it on their calendar. Like, yeah.
Michaella, where can we find you? Where can we find you? Where can we find your books?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Michaella Mutoni, MichaellaMutoni. I'm sure you'll share that.
Yeah, I'll share that.
My books are on Amazon Canada, Amazon US, The Wondrous Journeys of Isaro and Juru. There's 2 of them, actually. One is a big trip, Isaro and Juru's big trip to Accra.
I saw that.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about both, but I really like that one because we talk about Ghanaian food, we talk about Michaella market, we talk about receiving names, like our names, because I know names are a big thing, and then it goes back to like this whole identity thing, like understanding where our names come from, why our names matter, not allowing people to butcher them. And then the second book is called Auntie Zuba's Magical Wedding, and that one is based in Rwanda, and it's about a traditional dowry ceremony. And why do dowries matter? Do we care about them? Do we not care about them? But those are like the topics around that. So I hope you like them.
So this is like a series, and you pick like different aspects of culture, and then you write on them.
Exactly.
This is really beautiful.
Yeah. I already have like 3, 4, 5 in my mind, but I'm like, let's pace ourselves, okay?
Give ourselves some grace, and you know, oh my gosh,
and breathing room, right? So yeah, let me know what you think, and yeah,
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Anyway.
I'm so proud of you, and I'm happy you're doing all of these things to impact, our mothers out there. I'm particularly happy you turned what seemed to be a challenge into purpose, and you
Yeah.
are impacting, lives out there. And a lot of these cross-cultural kids we are raising in North America or in a foreign land are going to learn something about culture and their
Yeah.
values. So that is really beautiful. Michaella, thank you so much for coming to the Dairy Mom podcast. We are happy you came, and I know and I hope that people will learn a lot from our conversation today. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Wow, what a powerful conclusion to our series, Beyond Borders, A Mother's Tale. Michaella made some very profound statements. She said, get clarity on what you want to do, and once you have clarity, set systems in place to help support your goal. She also said, it takes a village. I really hope you enjoyed our conversation with Michaella. Next Sunday, we'll bring you another inspiring story from another mother. We want to thank you for staying with us up until this point. If you want to connect with Michaella, you can find her on Instagram at Michaella Mutoni and on LinkedIn at Michaella Mutoni. You'll find the links to her pages and her website in the description of this episode. If you want to connect with the Dairy Mom, you can find us on Facebook, TikTok, and on LinkedIn at the Dairy Mom. And on Instagram, you find us at @the Dairy Mom. Thank you once again for joining us today. And as we wrap up, my question to you is, what is your hashtag, the Dairy Mom story? Join me and let's do this together. My name is Diana Adair, and I am the Dairy Mom.